Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Saturday, September 22nd, 1883. Sri Ramakrishna was seated in the drawing room of Adhar's house in Calcutta with Rakhal, Adhar, M, Ishan and other devotees. Many gentlemen of the neighborhood were also present. It was afternoon. The master was very fond of Ishan. He had been a superintendent in the Accountant General's office, and later on his children also occupied high government positions. One of them was a classmate of Narendra. Ishan's purse was always open for the poor and needy. When he retired from service, he devoted his time to spiritual practices and charity. He often visited Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, with one hand hold to God, when with other you work in the world. When work is finished, you hold the thing, God, with both hands. So we see in Ishan's life, he's holding to both God and the world. When retired, he leaves the world, and with both hands he's holding God. How Sri Ramakrishna feels attracted to these people who are really devoted to God, and also without escaping the world from the world and world duties of life, fulfilling all the duties and attending to the needs of life, how they live in the world, holding on to God, and finally transcend the nature and reach God. Master was very, very fond of Ishan because of these great qualities in him. Master to Ishan, please tell us the story of the boy who posted the letter. Ishan with a smile. A boy once heard that God is our creator. So he wrote a letter to God, setting forth his prayers and posted it. The address he put on the envelope was heaven. The master with a smile. Did you hear the story? One succeeds in spiritual life when one develops a faith like that boy. To Ishan, tell about the renunciation of activities. Ishan, after the attainment of God, religious duties such as Sandhya drop away. Now, regarding the story, it's a old English story where a boy, look at the faith that God is our creator and he is somewhere and the post can reach him. When we see our relatives or friends or anybody is far away from us and is not accessible, especially on those days, in those days, the only way to contact them was through post. And write any letter to anybody indicating the place where the person stays. And even the village name alone is sufficient, not like nowadays. Everyone knows the other person in the village. So, and in those days, early in Thakur's life and all, when the time came, the post, what happened was there was no vehicles to travel and give to the one horseman will take a particular place where it is accessible to all. He is selected, and there all the posts in and around about 100 200 villages, covering villages, there the post will reach, and postman carries on a horse to the particular villages and go and distribute to the houses. So, but anyway, the boy knows if you post a letter, it will reach that person. So he has written a letter to heaven, to God, the difficulties and problems that they are facing. If I remember correctly that story, the postman opens it and sees, what is this heaven? Who has written this letter? Then that boy, small boy, writing the difficulties and lack of funds, nothing to eat at home. Then he sends some coins through his postman and tells the God has sent him to not to break his faith. That continues for many times. And I forget the end, perhaps the postman himself is on the retirement or on the deathbed or something. He has his own some coins left over. He ties and he says, if any letter comes again for heaven, you send this to something. But anyway, they look at the faith, and somehow the faith should not be harmed. He is there in the human consciousness, in the postman's mind. Oh, such an innocent boy. He has written a letter without anybody's knowing his difficulties, and it has to be answered. The postman also equally participates in the faith of the child to keep that faith intact. To Ishan, Master is tell us about the renunciation of activities. Ishan, after the attainment of God, religious duties such as Sandhya drop away. One day, some people were sitting on the bank of Ganges performing the Sandhya. But one of them abstained from it. On being asked the reason, he said, I am observing Ashaucha. I cannot perform the Sandhya ceremony. Ashaucha is temporary defilement caused by birth or death of a blood relative. A man observing Ashaucha cannot perform Sandhya or daily worship. But one of them abstained from it, and on being asked the reason, he said, I am observing Ashaucha. I cannot perform the Sandhya ceremony. In my case, the defilement is due to both birth and death. My mother ignorance is dead. My son self-knowledge has been born. The attainment of religious duty, Sandhya and all, drop away. Actually, when the person, anybody in the family dies, or a new child and all, something is born, the Ashaucha is observed. Now, because excessive joy, excessive grief, if you do something during that period of spiritual practices, other than pure spiritual practices, the religious observances if you practice, the religious observances will lose its, my mind is wholly filled with grief, I don't know what am I doing. it becomes slowly a license to do rituals without meaning and without understanding. Slowly the essence drops away. So 12 days, any grief, any amount of grief, even my own child's death, it tapers down to zero within 12 days. It goes on decreasing. Yesterday what was the grief? If you see, it is going on decreasing. After 12 days we have forgotten already that a child, my child has dead. So this tendency continues always. It is going away. Now we see here that the main thing is the Ashoka is observed even in excessive joy. Beyond limits, if he is joyful, then his whole mind is in the enjoyments and places where his worship and rituals like that, religious ritual rites, when he does, he is unmindful of what is he doing. Slowly it becomes a habit to do things without paying attention. In rituals like puja, sandhya and all, two important things is, one is bhavana, feelings that rise in the heart, and one is its artha, bhavana. What am I doing? Is the meaning. I am offering this to God. This I am offering to God is one part. I am offering it to God. This is meaning. Om idam etat padyam sarvadeva devi swarupaya Sri Ramakrishnaya namaha. I am washing the feet of Lord. If I lose my mind of doing that, offering it to God, then I am just taking water and pouring and uttering something. Mind is elsewhere. It is filled with grief or enjoyments. So they don't allow to do in unmindful. They don't want to do without paying attention to what you are doing and without feelings. Because it's not only not to yield anything, but it becomes slowly a habit to do only rituals without meaning and bhavana. Once the mind gets a concession and freedom, it starts exploiting. The whole rituals remains a ritual alone, without any essence. So I cannot perform sandhya ceremony. In my case, defilement is due to birth and death. My ignorance has gone. I cannot do now. And the self-knowledge has born, and I cannot do. Ishan, Master, tell us also how caste distinctions drop away when one attains self-knowledge. Ishan, Shankaracharya was once climbing the steps after finishing his bath in the Ganges, when he saw just in front of him an untouchable who had a pack of dogs with him. You have touched me, said Shankara. Revered sir, said the Paraya, I have not touched you, nor you have touched me. The self is inner ruler of the beings and cannot be contaminated. Is there any difference between the sun's reflection in wine and its reflection in Ganges? Master with a smile. And about harmony, how one can realize God through all paths? Ishan smiling. Both Hari and Hara are derived from the same root. The difference is only pratyaya. In reality, he is Hari is also Hara. If man has faith in God, then it does not matter whom he worships. Master, and please tell us how also how the heart of a sadhu is great of all, Ishan. This earth is the largest thing we see anywhere around us. But larger than the earth is the ocean, and larger than the ocean is sky. But Vishnu, the Godhead, has covered earth, sky, and nether world with one of his feet, and that foot of Vishnu is enshrined in the sadhu's heart. Therefore, heart of a holy man is the greatest of all. See how Sri Ramakrishna is making him to speak out. Sri Ramakrishna is giving all knowledge, and the same thing, how it enters within, how it is stored, how it is brought to action. The most important part is whatever you hear, whatever you read, whatever you understand as real and as eternal, it must be absorbed, retained, practiced, and it has to be reflected in my life every moment. So this, I must be that, what it is. So how we enter inside, how we reach, and this process should not end with your attaining. It must be shared with others. Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavya. Never err from your duty to learn and to teach. If learning is an important part of life, teaching is another inevitable part of life. Otherwise, knowledge ceases to exist. What all you learn, what all you gain, give it to someone before you leave the body. Just like you earn money and possess and leave it to your family and go. Like that, the knowledge also, everything. Sri Ramakrishna is making a practical demonstration and making them do this actually and practically. And it's a demonstration for us and it's a practice for them. Others also, when they talk to each other, how enjoyably, how joyfully they will be listening to each other and telling to each other. The bhaktas, devotees of God, whenever they join, they speak about God, enjoy their each other's company. If a man has faith in God, it does not matter whom he worships. Master. The devotees were delighted with Ishan's words. How all enjoy, you see. Ishan intended to retire to a solitary place and practice a special discipline of the Gayatri, through which Brahman is invoked. But the master said that knowledge of Brahman was not possible without complete destruction of worldliness. Further, he said that it was impossible for a man to totally withdraw his mind from objects of the senses in Kali Yuga, when his life was dependent on food. That is why the master discouraged people from attempting the Vedic worship of Brahman and asked them to worship Shakti, the Divine Mother, who is identical with Brahman. Gayatri. Ishan intended to retire to a solitary place and practice special discipline of Gayatri. The Gayatri is actually a prayer for illumination. Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Awaken my spiritual consciousness. I am conscious of this world. I know everything of this world. I know every enjoyment. I know every bondage. I know all things of this world within space and time. Whatever I could understand, the way in which I understand may differ, but I understand something of all this that exists within time and space. Now, my awareness is filled with world. My spiritual awareness is not at all there. I am not able to recognize or understand what is spirit. So to understand what is spirit, we need some awakening from within. I must be internally awakened to understand and know what it is. So this understanding, to know God, to know nature, to know who am I really, I need a higher understanding, higher intellect that can perceive in and through matter. So here comes the Gayatri for help. Deyo yona prachodayat. Awaken my spiritual consciousness. Awaken my spiritual consciousness. Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Dhi is special intellect, higher intellect that can perceive God, that can understand the Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara in essence and their identity. He can understand. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.